Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is a Monday in the Riv and a very somber Monday. I want to begin first by I didn't hear a lot on our local news, especially with these local TV stations and other stations. I didn't hear much about the fact that we lost three American lives in the military. I'm not sure if they were all the base that was hit in Jordan was 350, I believe, military personnel. That was a mixture of Army and Air Force, so I'm not sure because they have not released the names yet. They were going to notify the family. 34 were wounded, and as usual, that rotting bag of oatmeal that we have for the president is still trying to figure out what to do. That was the 160th strike on American forces. We have two Navy SEALs that are presumed dead from a week or two ago that were on a mission out in the ocean trying to intercept a ship. So two Navy SEALs, three more dead Americans, and to add to the 13 that we lost in Afghanistan, and this rotting bag of oatmeal, and his band of clowns is trying to figure out what we should do. Last time something like this happened over there, and Reagan was president, he wiped out half of the Iranian Navy, and it didn't happen again. And that imbecile Kirby was on TV today talking about we're gonna figure out what to do, when to do it at the time we determine, blah blah blah. And I'll remind everybody that when Kirby was nominated for the deputy's job, not the defense secretary, the deputy, that John McCain rose in the Senate, which he very rarely did, and he said it. I very rarely oppose a presidential appointment, but this man is not qualified, and he is actually a danger to American servicemen and women. And now he's running a show. This is outrageous. American lives are being lost. Everybody with any a modicum of understanding of world politics known that our reaction to that strike should have been swift and very, very harsh. We cannot allow our men and women who are serving to be killed, and they were bombed in their sleep in the barracks. That base compound, it's not really a base, it's a small little compound, the Tower 22 in Jordan, which is at the intersection of Syria, Jordan, and Iraq, supplies logistical support to all our special operations troops in Syria. All the Green Berets and SEALs and Rangers and special operations soldiers that are operating in Syria right now. It's a travesty. It's an insult to our nation, and they never ever mention what happened in Afghanistan and the lives lost. Biden was looking at his watch when they brought the caskets off the planes for the men and women who died in Afghanistan during the withdrawal. This country is disgracing itself with its leadership on every level. And I had to get that out. So with that, CJ, I'll turn it over to you because as you can see, this bothers me quite a bit.
No, I don't blame you. When I heard the story last night, I was very upset. And when I listened to Kirby this morning, I was like, you weak bastard. I mean, and then the president saying, we shall have a response. Well, when's the response going to come? In a week? Hamas attacked Israel. The next day they were attacked. They were on top of them. They didn't wait. We were willing to back Israel the next day. This should have been addressed immediately. And personally, I do the same thing we did last time. Take out the Navy. Take out the Iranian Navy. Let them wake up and realize, I'm tired of hearing will have a response. We shall have an equal response. We shall have. There is no equal response. We lost 3 Americans. 3. We've injured 34. What's the equal response? We're going to walk over there and say, okay, there's 3 Iranians, boom, 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 they're dead, and come over here, we're going to beat you with a stick so we can injure you. That's not an adequate response. Okay? I have family that were in the military. My cousin just retired from the Navy as a lieutenant commander. He put in a lot of time and a lot of work. And he was in the Gulf. He was overseas. And he has a family. He has a wife and a child. And at any time, he could have been killed. We're looking at our naval vessels right now over there, getting bombed, getting shot at 160 times. 160. Not 16. 160. 160. What's our response? Nothing. This is what happens when you elect them.
Well, they bought, yeah, he, the rotting bag of oatmeal, um, said that they were going to suffer the consequences. We were going to retaliate. They've been told not to do anything. I told them not. And the more you tell them that, number one, these wokies. Ironic that you mentioned your relatives that were in the Navy. The Navy has now announced that they're so desperate they're taking people without even a GED, which is absurd. It shows how this country is unraveling at the seams. Nobody wants to serve in the military where the primary focus is if you use the right pronoun. And as you know, because you have family in the Navy is a military that really should be requiring more education, not less, because in the Navy, ships are highly sophisticated. They have all kinds of electronic, you have radar, sonar, all kinds of communications between ships. These in the Navy, they're not ground troops. You can say, well, we can get some people without a high school diploma, without a GED to go into the Army and the Marines, because you can stick a rifle in their hand, put them in the infantry, and let them go into battle, because what you need in battle is a set of balls, not a PhD. But now it's getting so bad in the United States that we can't even get people to serve the country because it's not the military anymore. It's like a woke social club. So you can't get anybody. The Army's short, they're recruiting. Air Force is short. They're all short. But this is why. They're going to send them in harm's way. Stick them in the middle of the desert in the Middle East. And let them get bombed in their sleep with no retaliation, or with hand wringing and cringing. Oh, we don't want to escalate. Yeah, because you don't want to escalate, they're going to continue to do it. What you should have done is picked up the phone and told the Ayatollah Khamenei that, listen, one more strike and Iran is going to become a parking lot. That's what you should have told him. And my condolences go out to all the families, because this is a disgrace. This is an absolute disgrace. They have just like they don't care about poor people and housing and safety in the border, they don't care about our soldiers and sailors, Air Force and Marines. They don't care. They're just regular people that went into the military. And if they're rich kids, they get a college degree, become an officer, and they stick them in an office somewhere. It's an absolute tragedy. and a travesty. These people lose their sons and daughters, become gold star families. And we have a president that's sitting there with his thumb up his ass. Or he probably couldn't find it. You need somebody to show him where it is. So I'll retract that. But this is just. I mean, it infuriates me. These people are away from home, in harm's way, and this is what they get from their commander in chief and the Secretary of Defense. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Really? Somebody invades the White House. Are they going to figure out what they're going to do? Nancy Pelosi was going to call out everybody in Chicago, and Lori Lightfoot, they got to her house. She called out the entire Chicago PD that she wanted to defund. But when she was under attack, they got everybody on the planet out there to protect them. And we have our young men and women out there all over the world in uniform, away from their families, away from their homes, serving their country, and this is what they get. It's just not right. It's just not right. And with that, I'll segue into what you talks about some stuff in the flush. I heard that Michelle Dion was on a radio this morning talking about the Historical Commission in a presentation, and she made a point to say it was a very extended thing. As you said in your flush, Paul never gives up. No matter how many times you tell him he's going to get that armory to his rich friend, he doesn't give a damn about what the people think. And I know that loser Brad Kilby made a big long speech. I don't understand why the people don't want the armory. Since when are you the people, Brad? You don't represent the people. You represent the special interest, and you always have. You're the guy that you spent $1 million on baseball fields when the city was broke. You didn't give a shit. You wouldn't say, well, now's not the time to spend $1 million on the athletic fields. Now's the time to put that money in to help the people of Fall River. You've been doing that your whole career. You're a bum. You're a bum. And you got a whole bunch of bums sitting next to you. And this is the problem. He's talking about, and Michelle made a point to say he gave a very, very long statement, and not once in that statement was affordable housing mentioned. So they don't care. Look, the whole thing, then you got Auchincloss whining again. He's not talking about what's happened. He's talking about, we got to have a pathway for the illegals. And, no, we had a pathway called Ellis Island. Everybody came in here legally. They all got checked. No terrorists got in. And these people are nothing but political hacks pushing their own agenda. That's the guy that opened the door to let in a camera crew into Congress. And then in the next breath, he condemns January 6th was they invaded the Capitol. Well, you helped a camera crew from your side of the aisle invade it. Frankly, as you can see, this really triggered. I am sick of these people. I'm sick of them. And what's really infuriating me is that I don't know what it's going to take to get the 40,000 people who didn't vote to get up off their dead asses and go and change this thing in the next election. But I hope we finally hit the saturation point, and these people are going to start paying attention and taking back our government. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, CJ.
Well, it's funny you should have mentioned affordable housing, because the Notre Dame school is now, the renovation has now been completed. It's now called Lafayette Lofts. 1 and 2 bedroom units, $1,550 to $2,995 a month. $2,995 a month. Who's going to pay that to live in the Flint? Somebody who doesn't know what the Flint is. Somebody who has no idea. That is not worth it in Fall River. But when you gentrify, this is what you get.
Listen, CJ, nobody's going to live there. Here's a picture of it, and
Right.
there's the caption. It says, monthly rents for 1 to 2 to 3 bedroom, 1,550 to 2,995. So a family that needs a 3 bedroom unit will pay $36,000 a year, when the average income in this city is 48 to 50,000 before taxes. So nobody can afford it. But here's some of the comments that went along with that picture. I got to read these. That's it. 500 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1,700 in the Flint. Can't make this shit up. Hey, Linda Barbosa. What we need is low income apartments, not luxury lofts. These companies are all about money. Yeah, you're right. Nobody cares. Nobody can. No, they don't care that nobody in Fall River can afford these rents. Because the people who can afford those rents are living in single family houses in the North End. Those are the only people that can afford those rents. And if anybody moves there, apparently they came in by helicopter and dropped through the roof. Because if they ever parked their car on Pleasant Street and walked up to the Lafayette Lofts or whatever the euphemistic bullshit name they come up with, and look at all the empty storefronts and realize they've now descended into an alternate universe, and the next stop is the Star Wars bar. Nobody's going to pay. Yeah, nobody's going to look. CJ, you can take it back, because nobody's going to pay $3,000 a month to live not only in a Flint, in Fall River, period. If you can afford $36,000 a year to pay rent, you can afford a house. You probably already got one. These people don't care. They're making this development, so they're all going to make money developing. And when the development's done, they'll just say, oh, shit's not working. See you later. Bye-bye. It's happened before. It happened in Detroit. It's happened all over the country. Gentrification. I saw a report about some city that actually built affordable housing and came back, and I got to find it again because I caught the end of it. They talked about a city that only had 5%. And I know Paul's a little deficient in math. 5% gentrification. 95% affordable, and that city has made a great comeback. Why? Because they actually built housing for the people who lived in their community. Not for phantom people they think are going to come down. So, like I said, when I see Dan's on the line, old Dan, man Dan, and it's nice to see Dan, just like when I hear Michelle. Michelle on the city council stands up for the people, speaks her mind, as she did on the radio today. Listen to it. And Dan is our resident on the charter committee. I know he's always standing up for us, and when all our regular viewers and stuff, they're making comments, and they understand that if we can only get people involved, we might be able to change this absolute mess, because that's what we got here. This city is on the road to destruction, and as you said in your flush, among other things, which was good, I hope everybody read it, Paul never takes no for an answer. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And he'll get his shills to stand up there and make statements, and that's the way he plays it. It's like, never take no for an answer. I will give my rich friends, I will get them what they want. Hey, take a page from Kerry Lake. Have one of your rich friends call some of these people and try to bribe them, like they tried to bribe Kerry Lake. Or strong arm them, which you do too. Okay, back to you, Steve.
You stole my thunder. It's just very interesting to see that these developers think that this happens. And we saw this back in the 80s. Remember the condo thing? Everything was becoming condos. I mean, there are houses on Plymouth Avenue which are condos. They're three-decker buildings that are condos. So the floor apartment is now a condo, so you own it. But there was a whole big thing about that, and then all of a sudden, the bottom fell out, and the banks were holding all these condos, and they didn't know what to do with them. And then people were buying them up and taking them from condos back to single buildings again, if they could. It made for an interesting scenario. And is this what's going to happen to us with the market rate housing? Is it all going to fall apart? In which case, we can always, give Paul the glory for that one. And then we're going to have a bunch of vacant buildings. And then, of course, they will start saying, I'll take affordable housing. I'll take Section 8. I'll drop the rents. I'll do whatever I can to get the money because they got to pay the taxes. They got to pay the water. They got to pay the rainwater tax. They're going to have to pay it. And the other thing that I want to know, and Paul, if you're there, find the answer for this for me. Are these properties that are being developed, like Lafayette Lofts, being charged the commercial rate for the rainwater taxes, or are they paying the flat residential rate? I want to know. I want to know. I want to see if they're being given the chance. Because, Carlos Caesar on the Duval School got hit for $1,500 a quarter or more on the rainwater tax. He doesn't even have water going into the building, but he was still getting a water bill for the rainwater tax. I want to know what they're paying. The people want to know what they're paying. Is this fair? Or is Paul's friends getting a pass? I want to know this. I think it's important. I think it's very important. And something else I think is very important. Today, Nicholas Hoare, I should say a former police officer who is on administrative leave with pay, even though Massachusetts has decertified him as a police officer, he's still getting paid, is going to federal court on charges of civil rights violations and abuse under the authority of law. He supposedly hit or beat some prisoner over the head with a baton and then took him and slammed him into a wall. I'm not sure about that, but the city felt it was valid enough that they paid the victim $65,000. They've already planned out 10 days for the trial in federal court. Are we waiting until he gets convicted before we stop paying him? We've been paying him all along, even since Massachusetts has decertified him as a police officer. We've been paying him. I think that's a problem. I understand that there's the law, officers, Bill of Rights, etc., etc. But when the state has said, you're decertified, you're not a cop anymore, as far as we're concerned, that should take precedence. Is he still being paid because he's a fifth generation police officer and his family is still on the department? And there's rumors that once Chief Garvin leaves, his family member's got to become the chief. And if you remember correctly, one of his family members was the chief of staff for a mayor. This stuff doesn't end. Doesn't end. And I'm not sure how you feel, Chip, but I think that he should have not been paid anymore once they just decertified him. and for no other reason, because he was given a chance to defend himself there.
Well, I think you hit a giant nerve, CJ. I think now you've just revealed, you made the big reveal. You know that TV program they dress people up like like different kinds of animals, and you guess who they are.
Yep.
Well, I think you just revealed why they want to talk about all these lawsuits in executive session. You see, you said things that they don't want the people to hear. That how many of these people stayed on a payroll when they should have been fired? Not only the case you just cited, but we remember we talked about on this show about the head of security at Durfee that was on paid administrative leave for over a year. Over a year. And he participated in some nasty things according to the allegations. This is why they don't want to talk about this in open session. Because then they're going to have to reveal that a lot of these people stay on a payroll. Why? I don't know. You're right. People have a right to due process. But this is a big club. If I was the mayor and you had some in these positions, I wouldn't have put out with pay. When you fundamentally know what they did was wrong, you say, okay, you're on administrative leave until you want to retire, you want to leave, you resign, do whatever you want, but you're not getting paid. And if you want to get paid, we're terminating you for what we feel is cause. And then if you want to spend $500,000 on lawyers, we'll fight you in court on that, rather than pay the people off on the lawsuit and pay you. You see, that's the way I do it. But it would never happen. Because if I was mayor, since I negotiated contracts, there would be a termination for cause clause in every single contract written in the city of Fall River for anybody who's a department head or has any other mayorally appointed position. There would be a termination for cause clause where if they did something, they could be suspended without pay, get their due process. If they're convicted, they're gone. If they're found not guilty, they go back to work and you give them their back pay. But why the hell should you subsidize them? But that's what we've been doing for years. This is like some foreign kind of logic that people think. You think that people get away with this crap in private industry? You think anybody that pisses the boss off and shits all over the company gets to go home for a year with pay? And ride the books until they can retire? No. That's why they don't want it, CJ. You hit a nerve. You hit a giant nerve when you said that, because this is the problem. You just made the big reveal. Why they don't want this to be discussed. And with that, I'll throw it back to you.
The fact that this doesn't only occur in the police department shows the inane stupidity that this city has. And I'm going to show you a comment from Al Hathaway. Welcome to Spaceballs, Massachusetts. That's right. This is Spaceballs. It's unbelievable. But he also says regular people get fired. That's right. Regular people get fired. If I'm working for IBM and I'm accused of sexual harassment, I get fired. If I'm accused of assaulting a fellow employee, I'm fired. They don't say we're going to put you on administrative leave with pay until we can figure out what you did. They don't do that. They say you're fired. Bye bye. Get lost. We don't want to see you anymore. This is how it should run. This is how it should be done. As Chip said, he tried many years ago to get the fire department to put in a progressive disciplinary policy, which the city needs around every department. They need to put it into effect, blanket it for the city. Make one and blanket it for the city, all departments. Then we will have a disciplinary policy. Then we'll know if you do X, you get this X happens. If you do Y, this happens. Okay? You've been written up 4 times, now you got a 5-day suspension. You've been written up 10 times, now you got 2 weeks, no pay. This is how it should be done. This is how it should be done. That's common sense. That's why it doesn't happen. Because this is Spaceballs. We can't make this stuff up. We just can't. But again, we're hitting the nerves today. Today we're hitting the nerves and we're making sure people know what's happening. Because it's your dollars that are being spent.
That is for sure. Before you wrap it up, CJ, I want to tell all our viewers, our loyal viewers, who whether they agree or disagree with us, it's always nice to have you watching it. Tune in Wednesday. It's CJ's birthday. You guys can all send CJ his birthday wishes on Wednesday because it is his birthday. And lastly, before I turn it back over to you, let's all save some thoughts and prayers for the families of those service members who died and who are suffering injuries, have been evacuated from there, and let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Back to
Make
you,
a phone
CJ.
call to the White House and tell the president to do something already. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day.